couple of quick things. We've been in night shoots all week, so I won't be coherent or funny, and that's why my voice is a bit weird. So we've been shooting in a very top secret location in the city, shooting interiors with a very sort of atmosphere-filled, dusty environment. So I woke up not long ago. I got here and they said, could you say a few words? And I'm happy to. I'm happy to be here and try and sort of pass on and help as much as I can, really. You guys pretty much said everything I was going to say. So clearly, eloquently. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just sort of take you through a couple. I won't keep you long because I know you're all really busy, but I'll just sort of take you through the steps of how we got here, and I'll also sort of. I lived in Adelaide for 2 years a long time ago. I worked in ad agency here, and I studied as a graphic designer, and it always sort of stayed with me, Adelaide. I loved being here. I loved the city. Went to the US after that and spent a long time living in the US. And that's how I ended up being a director of commercials and directing video game commercials. And, that's a sort of short version of how I ended up getting onto Mortal Kombat. But the process of development that we went through was, I was going to the US a lot, shooting commercials there. Had made a few different video game commercials that got a bit of attention, and that allowed me to get an agent. Agent sends script over, do you want to do the Mortal Kombat movie? And I'd said to him all along, I said, look, I don't want to do a video game commercial as my first movie. I've done video games. Video game movies generally fail. And everyone's still looking for the sort of secret recipe of what the best video game adaptation to a movie is going to be. So he said, look, just read it. The guys at New Line are amazing. You'll love them. I think you'll be very like-minded. So I read it. I went in and I said to them, look, there's a specific way we need to make this movie. It has to have heart and soul. It has to be about humanity. It has to be about a human drama at the base of this whole film. Otherwise, people just get bored. People, every character within it needs to be fighting for what matters to them. So if we can do a film that talks about that and is really about a sort of a family human sort of story and has this heart and soul, I think we can then add and build to that this the sort of the fantasy and the action of that and all the fights. So they love that. I pitched the day Donald Trump got into office and won the election. I'll never forget that. And then in the last 2.5 years, or nearly 3 years, we've been in development. So development really just means people getting together and trying to make the script really good. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what that means. So anyway, we went through development, and then we got to the point where it's okay, where are we going to make this movie? So about a year ago, we started thinking, where are we going to make it? So you then, as Kate was saying, you start thinking about, okay, what are the locations in the script? What do we specifically need? We need, I can't tell you, top secret. So then you start, okay, where do those things exist really close to each other? So we can move the circus as short a distance as possible because it costs a lot of money to do that. So we looked at Budapest, we looked at Ireland, we looked at Iceland, we looked at London, and all of those places, to a certain degree, the budget was just too high for what we were trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve a very epic, massive, cinematic movie here that has scale. So then we rewrote the script a bit, took a few expensive scenes out of it, went back, okay, where we're going to make it, still was too expensive, did it again. And during that process of actually having to sort of drill down and make this the most efficient script we could, it just gets better and better and better. So taking out all these sort of things that at the time sounded great, But actually, when you think of the structure and the pacing of the script, it was like, no, it's getting boring there. We don't need that. We can get rid of it. So that process then took us to, so James Wan, who's one of the executive producers, he directed the Saw movies, he directed Aquaman, lots of other horror movies I can't remember. He's Australian, and I'm Australian. So the producers at New Line said, why don't we look at Australia? How do you feel about that? And given some of the locations that are in the movie, it was like, oh, I don't know where we're going to find the things we need. So I'll say one, because Bennett, the producer, said it on Channel 9 News the other day, so I'll tell you one. Okay? So it's his fault, not mine, right? So we needed one of the scenes is set in 15th century Japan. So in Australia, we don't really have many old growth pine forests, right? So that was the one thing when everyone was saying, okay, let's think about Australia. I said, you're never going to find an old growth pine forest anywhere. You might find a plantation, but it's just not going to be there. And there's eucalyptus trees everywhere, and nothing drives me more nuts when you watch a film that's meant to be set in, the US somewhere, and then there's eucalyptus trees everywhere, right? So we then get to this point where it's, okay, where are we going to screen? Australia came to the party, that was fantastic. And then we were looking what state we were going to go to. So then we started looking, okay, Marvel is going into Sydney, Baz's Elvis movies going into Queensland, Victoria weren't offering any incentives at the time. So we said, okay, it was sort of like, you just have to explore and see what's available, and the Gold Coast and Sydney are the obvious choices. Everyone goes, oh, well, we'll shoot it there. If you're going to shoot in Australia, that's where you shoot. And so we just thought, well, let's think about this in a more broader sense. And then we said, okay, what about South Australia? And then all of a sudden, the alchemy of crazy development in film just sparked, because the locations we need are here. There's this incredible sort of grit and realism about a lot of the locations we're shooting in. They're very, so I'm really excited by that, because the film I want to make isn't like it's got a lot of, I want to shoot it as much in camera as possible. So what that means is it's not people in superhero costumes running around a parking lot in Atlanta with a giant green screen behind them, that then we add all the visual effects later. It's all very much in camera, it's all very much locations. And Adelaide and the greater South Australia had that. So then it was like, okay, this is becoming very viable. Then you add to that Kojo, who are here, Rising Sun Pictures, who are here, the Mill Film, who are here, and all of a sudden, the building blocks of what we need are all here. You were right, Anna. No one cares less. No one, if you're Australian, you're Australian. It's just like, oh, we're shooting in Australia, fantastic. Whereabouts? Oh, Adelaide, great. What's there? This location, oh, fantastic, looks amazing. Everyone in LA, when I'm sending all the locations photos back, their minds are being blown with what we're finding here. It is going to be epic because of what's here. So no one at all says, oh, what's the deal with Adelaide? Everyone's like, fantastic. Australia, we love shooting in Australia. Everyone's nice. You can get good coffee. Weather's great. Love the locations. Getting a great tax rebate. It's not to love, right? So that it's really uncomplicated in many regards. It's very simple. So, these guys presented it all really, really well. But so we got to there, and then I'll be 5 minutes. That's it, and then I'll shut up. So we're here, and then we have to go like that to fit ourselves in, because it's gigantic, this thing. There's no space, there's no carpenters, there's no, we get here and it's like, where are we going to put that set? Where are we going to put that set? So we've got a couple of key sets that are just gigantic. The Adelaide Studios one of the sound stages has got our little set in it, and then the other sound stage is where all our the stunt coordinators are all basing their fight vizzes out of. So they shoot all the fights on video and we look at it, and so they're doing them all there with cardboard boxes, right? So that's in the small one. But then we've got stages all over the place that are actually just empty warehouses. So, we had to get here and push out and say, okay, how? So that took some time, but it's working, I probably don't know how hard it was because no one tells me that stuff. I just swan in and go, yeah, it looks great. It's been a month of, people tearing their hair out to find these places to do it, and I just walk in and say, yeah, that looks good. So, and then when we got here, we had to find the people, right? So I'm going to give you 3 examples of Adelaide, South Australian-based people who are contributing to this film massively. I mean massively. There's 3 storyboard artists we're using who are all from Adelaide. They're incredibly talented guys, 3 guys. They are the source of comedy for the whole place when we were in pre-production down in the old CSIRO building in Woodville. Those guys, the laughter was coming out of their room, it was hilarious. They're 3 amazing guys. One of them's an animator, Greg Holfeld. One of them's an illustrator and graphic designer, Naam Zurch, is that how his last name is? Yeah. And then this other incredible illustrator, Dave Follett. Those 3 guys are producing such high standard of work with the storyboards that people came and said to me, do you fly around the world with those 3 guys? Are they your storyboard guys? I was like, no, they're just 3 boneheads from Adelaide, So I know Greg from when I lived here, and he's a really dear friend of mine. So I said to him, hey, we need a department. And then there was a graduate out of the school, Anthony, can't remember his last name. He was the first, he was about the 3rd person hired on the movie. He came in and did the early storyboards, and then, those guys were all in there. So the people are here. The talent is here. So that's one example of how the production designers from the US, and he's worked on The Dark Knight and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I mean he's incredible, and he's like, God, those guys are amazing, So and then there's we've got 3 cameras running the whole time, and our C camera operator is this guy Max. What's Max's last name?
Corkindale.
So I'm looking at the monitors. I'm concentrating on A camera. Jermaine, who's this incredible DP from Melbourne, he's our DP. Can I grab a glass of water? Oh, thank you. So I'm looking at the monitor all the time, and C camera's there. Every time I look at C camera, I think, God, that looks amazing. That is incredible, those shots off C camera, because you just worry about A camera, B camera, and then C camera often. So Max is running C camera. So I'm looking at it going, God, this is incredible. Who's doing this? So I walk up to Max, and he looks at me like, oh shit, what have I done wrong? And I said, everything you're doing is incredible. It's amazing. You're putting yourself in the right spot. Stuff you're creating is incredible. So Max is a super talented DP. He's from here, he just didn't have the opportunity. Now he has the opportunity, he's smashing it. And the 3rd person who has been instrumental to this movie is my assistant, Vic Cox, who's here. Put your hand up. And Vic so she's my assistant, but basically we couldn't make the movie without her, because she's a gamer, she's a director, she's a writer, she's incredibly smart, she's keeps us all in check. I have these stupid ideas, and she looks at me like, no, don't do that. So she's not only making sure we stay true to the canon of the game and making sure that's true. She knows that. She's got an encyclopedic understanding of the game, plus she's a filmmaker. So she comes in, she writes a letter to the South Australian Film Corporation, to me, which I never got. She just battled her way through and just through persistence and talent, got through into the... I interviewed with Vic, instantly was like, wow, she's incredible. And she is indispensable to the movie. I mean, really, the ideas she has... I'm really embarrassing Vic now. And, you know, what she's bringing has been incredible. And the film has gone from here to here because of her. So there's 3 examples of what Adelaide and what South Australia has brought beyond the tax incentives, beyond all that. That's what happens. The talent is here. Everyone's loving being here. It's easy to drive around. There's no traffic. And it's an absolute joy. So I'll shut up now and you can all go back to work or whatever you're going to do. But I just wanted to give you a couple of specific examples of everyone's here, the talent's here, and now I think it really is being set up beautifully by these guys and by the state government. Stephen Marshall has done an incredible job. He's a very proactive guy, and David Pisoni, the Minister for Innovation, those 2 guys are really, you know, they've been instrumental to bring it here as well. So, yeah, it's just sort of the full package and it's working really well. So I'll stop talking. Thank you.